Today, I want to introduce to you two very special gifts. Gifts, I'm going to say it's guests, and they are a gift to us today. I'm just delighted that SQuire Rushnell is with us, and you've heard of Godwinks, and balancing him out is his wonderful, beautiful wife, Louise Duart Rushnell, and they are here. And they're going to be sharing with us their amazing journey together. I'm excited, Julie, that they're here, and we're going to bring them on right now.
Yeah, let's do it.
So, hey, welcome to the program today. Thank you
Hi,
for
Mike.
being
Hey,
Hi, Julie.
Hi. Mike, you sound like Charlie Brown with the ice cream dropping, and now you have to do the whole thing with the cabinets.
You know, I'm wondering, did that ice cream taste okay with the little granules of dirt? You didn't let it go to waste, did you?
No. So some guy is watching me, and there's a big mess everywhere. And I go to pick it up, but I was still holding on to one cone.
Of course
I
you are.
got a couple licks out of it, and then I finally threw it in the garbage. And I didn't want to admit to my wife that I'd bought the ice cream that she told me not to get. But anyways, it just happened. Life happens.
I love it.
Okay.
And life happens with you folks, and you have come up with a phrase. Tell us what it means, the phrase God winks, because God showed up in so many different ways. He's still showing up. He's showing up in my life, but we want to hear from you. What is God winks all about?
Well, God winks happen to everybody. We just go around helping people see them, because they do happen to everyone. And they're those little coincidences that aren't coincidence, but come from divine order. And if you look in the dictionary for coincidence, it'll talk about two events coming together without apparent cause. Well, a Godwink is different than that. A Godwink are two extraordinary events coming together with a cause, and that cause is God.
I
and
love
in the
that.
Jewish language,
Yes, in the Jewish, there is no word for coincidence.
Yeah.
Because if God is sovereign, he's everywhere. There's no happenstance. There's no coincidence. He's everywhere. So we try to get people, and you talked about, how, well, God is so good, but, what he does is he does things sometimes in simple ways but we can go very, very deep in that too. But simply it's a gift left on your doorstep. You have to open the door and open your gift. And that gift is a God wink. It's out of 8 billion people on this planet. It's a person to person called just for you saying, hey, kid, I'm thinking about you. I love you. I'm with you. I'm never going to leave you or forsake you.
Well, as I'm listening to you share those things, it's just coming out rapid fire. I know it's coming right out of your heart. I've often used the phrase divine coincidences, but I think I'm going to change my rhetoric. Maybe I'll borrow from you, and somewhere in remote part of Canada, maybe they'll think I came up with the phrase God winks myself. But
go right ahead and claim it, Mike.
But Hallmark has picked up on this. I think they've done 3 movies already on this whole God winks theme. And as I was sharing with you, my daughter, she dresses a lot of the people for Hallmark, and I constantly joke with her that, everything comes to a perfect climate on Christmas Eve. It snows, they get married, and everybody lives happily ever after. And that's why I have the dint on the side of my head where she's hit me so many times. But I want to ask you a question. Everybody is watching, everybody is listening, but how do you know God is listening to our prayer and hasn't forgotten about us in times of trouble?
The more you speak to God, the clearer the voice becomes.
Yes.
Even with God winks, people say, gosh, there are certain people that have all these God winks. How do I get God winks? Which also is another phrase for answered prayer, because God answers our prayers through God winks. He shows himself to us. There's
There's no word in the English language for answered prayer. So people have now used this little word, God wink, to fill that vacancy. And God winks are, and hearing God is like driving in the country, listening to a radio station. Yes. You get a lot of static, and the closer you get to the tower, the closer you get to the signal and the source of the signal, the clearer the voice. And that's what happens. The closer we get to God, the more we're going to see God winks, and we're going to hear his voice or see his communication to us through those Godwinks.
And there was a great evangelist, William Temple, back in I think the 1600s, was it?
1650s, yeah.
And he was very English, and he
must have been important.
Yes,
they made him a sir.
That's right. They made him a sir.
Yeah, right.
And so he said, when I pray, coincidences happen. When I don't, they don't. Of course, he didn't know Godwinks.
We can't blame him for that.
Yeah,
right.
Well, go ahead.
Isn't that great that the more you pray, the more you see his presence in every part of your life?
Yeah. I was thinking about the Hallmark twist, and I believe one of the reasons that your Godwink stories have become Hallmark movies, especially at the Christmas season, is because we want a happy ending. We want to know, does God really care?
Yeah.
Because we feel so messed up. The world is messed up. And while I don't want to admit personally that I'm going through those struggles, we all know. And my wife actually looks at me when I peek around the corner when she's watching a Hallmark, and she says, "You really do like this, don't you?" I hate to admit it, but we all want a happy ending. We all want a happy ending.
Yeah. That's right.
And also these stories, these Godwink stories are all true, which makes it different than some of the other stories. So people look at them and think, wow, if that happened for them, it could happen for me.
And every one of the Hallmark movies are called a Godwink Christmas.
Yes.
And so we say Godwink 1, 2, 3, and now a Godwink Christmas number 4. We just finished production on this weekend, and it'll be airing in America on December 11th. Usually it follows in Canada by a week or two. And I know that you'll have a chance to see it up there too. And there's always an amazing wow ending, because Godwinks make you say, wow, what are the odds of that? Well, this particular Godwink story, it's called A Godwink Christmas Miracle of Love. It has the biggest Godwink wow of all of them.
Miracle.
Well, we're looking forward to that. I'm going to ask Julie to join us right now, because I know she has a burning question for you as well. And it's probably about tell us your best story, but Julie, jump in.
Well, I know in my own life how my husband and I got together is nothing but a whole bunch of Godwinks. No matter how much I try to fight against it, it's so amazing to look back and see what God was doing, and it's crazy. So I have to ask, how do the two of you work together as a couple? Because I know that there's been many seasons in my own life where my husband and I work together, and it's always interesting to see, how God works in that.
Well, we've been married over 22 years. And if we've had an argument, I sure don't remember it. I can't ever remember.
I do. No.
That's called selective hearing.
Books together.
Right. We have disagreements, but I think
but that's not an argument.
No, we respect each other.
Right.
But again, we pray together, every single day. When we first got together, we started praying. And that's how the partnered prayer came about in the 40-day prayer challenge, that we started praying together, and we saw the most amazing things happen. As you often say, Squire, it was like throwing a sponge, in a sink, and all of a sudden you see it expand when two people pray together, two or more. Well,
that's why we were wanting to ask about the 40-day prayer as well. So tell us more about that.
Well, we discovered, having had been in failed marriages, both of us, and we had never even thought of praying with our spouses. And as we wander around and talk to people and have dinner with people, and we find that most people have never heard of the idea of a husband and wife praying together, or two people coming together and praying consistently.
Mm-hmm.
And so we decided to devise this little architectural plan, a scaffolding, if you will, where we challenge people to pray together 5 minutes a day. That's all it takes, 5 minutes. God can do wonders with a few crumbs from us, okay?
Isn't that interesting? I love that God can do a few wonders with a few crumbs, like a lot. It's so true. Multiplication.
That's the multiplication, the expanding, the sponge.
That's all it takes, just a few, like a little seed, a little here, and 5 minutes a day for 40 days. And we say it can be over the phone if you have to. It's best if you're praying together, and you ought to try to do that every day, praying together. But sometimes it has to be you're in the back seat of a cab on the way to an airport. And sometimes you have to text. But praying together 5 minutes a day for 40 days, we guarantee you And we can make this guarantee because we've been making it for 10 years and nobody has ever said it didn't work.
Well, we have the receipts. We have the facts too. We have some evidence. We actually we knew that it worked because we tested all these couples, and we tried. We knew that there was a cause and effect. So we eventually got to Baylor University, who said they would do the first ever empirical study of what happens when two people pray together consistently for so many days.
This is 40 days, yeah.
And we have some facts on that will blow your mind.
Well, the research is still in process. We are collecting the data, collecting the surveys, and they can do that on our website, praystay.org. And you can take the Baylor survey at the beginning and at the end of the 40 days. And then to help you measure how well you did, you get an app readout immediately of the 20 questions that are most important in the survey. And it's called My Prayer Score. So you get to see how well you did. Now, we just did some preliminary information. And if people who took the survey, happiness went up by 18%, compromise went up by 22%, feelings of delight rocketed to 30%, lovemaking, listen guys, went up 20%, marital stability went up 16 points, and the fear of divorce plummeted to zero.
Wow, let's end on that. That is awesome. I feel like we just touched on stuff, but that is so cool.
Yeah, I'm so thankful you've been with us today. Well, I want you to come back and give us more of those reports. I'm going to give up some extra time right now. I'm going to ask you in 30 seconds, what is your best Godwink story?
Oh, boy.
Well, there are many of them already made into movies. And probably our best one right now is the one that's going to be on Netflix in February about a trooper in Rhode Island who wanted to be in the canine unit. And he had ADD, and he finally got paired up with a rescue dog that also had ADD, and they overcame the impossible, rose to the top. There was a lady who was advocating for this rescue dog because it was going to be put down in 2 hours, and this cop came along and took this dog, and 7 years later, in real life, not in the movie, but 7 years later, they went on a search, and they found a boy in the woods. It turned out to be the boy of that lady who advocated for the dogs to live, for Ruby to live. It's an amazing Godwink story. Every Godwink story will make you say either, wow, or what are the odds of that? And in this movie, you do that.
So true.
Well, thank you so much for being a part of the program today. We're looking forward to having you come back. God's peace and blessing on you. And we're all going to be watching for his winks.